The healing power of yoga seems to have touched every corner of the globe. Many health professionals are now recommending yoga therapy for their patients recovering from serious illnesses. Dr. Krishna Raman integrates yoga and Western medicine in his clinical practice. Doctor, it is said yoga is a way of life. How do you combine yoga with Western medicine in your practice?
See, Western medicine deals with the body, less with the mind. Nowadays, they are emphasizing more on the mind also. Yoga is a science which deals with the body and mind. Primarily, of course, yoga as such is mistaken for Hatha Yoga, which is not really correct. Because the word yoga itself is so loaded, it's misinterpreted. It actually means a state of equanimity of mind and a state where nothing disturbs you. You're very equanimous, whatever happens. And that's easily said than done. We can't get to that state very easily. So the aim of yoga or the aim of life is to come to that state of equanimity. But today what has happened is that has been forgotten and people are running after something blindly and taking up to yoga practices which involve asanas, which is not the aim of yoga. Asanas are only part of yoga. But since they are so therapeutic and they also have a limitation, they can be used in Western medicine, particularly in the orthopedic field where it lends itself to a variety of ailments like low back pain, prolapsed disc, spondylitis and so on. In the area of cardiology, you have cardiac ailments which can be where yoga can be used as a preventive, and ENT, it can treat sinusitis and tinnitus and so on. So yoga has a wide variety of clinical applications. So having practiced yoga myself since the age of 14, I was able to see that it has a great deal of value in clinical medicine. Not that yoga is a kind of a all-in-all situation where it can deal with all kinds of situations, but it has a wide scope. So I am able to use it wherever I feel fit. Where I feel it is not necessary, I give drugs, or where I feel surgery is necessary, I advise the patient to undergo surgery. For example, take a case of severe osteoarthritis of the knee where the patient can hardly walk. If it's extreme, surgery is relief for the patient. One cannot be fanatical and say, yes, I practice yoga, so I'm going to give yoga. It should work. It will not work. So being a physician has helped me not to be fanatical in my integration of yoga and Western medicine. And also being a physician has helped me see the other dimension where yoga can be used. So this is the advantage. That is how I'm able to use it. My training as a Western physician gives me the, if you can call it the edge, for my understanding over in yoga linked to Western medicine.
Tall claims are made on how yoga can de-stress a person. How far is this true, doctor?
When you are talking of de-stressing, one must be very clear, are we de-stressing the mind or de-stressing the body? Both are very clear, separate fields which we have to deal with. Stress is commonly perceived as, I am down, I am out, it's in the mind. First, stress affects the mind, not the body. Because there are people who have enormous energy and they seem to carry on without their body becoming tired, mind becoming tired, far more than the so-called average human being. This is because there's one basic point we must understand. Energy or consciousness, whatever you call it, animates matter, not the other way around. Because see, when the egg and the sperm meet and the embryo forms, it doesn't have life, it's lifeless yet. Only after a few months, according to Indian philosophy or whatever you call it, the life force enters the womb into the child. Or if you say somebody enters into another body or whatever, however you look at it. So initially it's a lifeless multiplication of cells, though there's energy in it, but the actual person hasn't occupied the body, so to say. The body and mind are clearly separate. But though they are separate, it's very difficult for us to find out where the border is. You see, so when you're stressed up, you have asthma, your sugar level shoots up and so on. So how do we deal with this? So I think primarily, we should deal with our mind, our emotions, our attitudes in day-to-day living. When that is set right, the body will take care of itself. This is the most important fact. But what's happening today is we are using Hatha Yoga, which is the third limb in the Ashtanga Yoga, as a solution and tool for all kinds of problems in the world, which is not true. The yogis practiced yoga to keep themselves fit. There they stopped it. And they did their sadhana, or however you might call it, to evolve further, to internalize themselves, to perfect themselves. You see, standing on the head is not yoga, like a bat, if I may call it. What is yoga is that there must be integration of thought, word and deed, which is called Trikarana Shuddhi. Trikarana Shuddhi is true yoga. When one has the Trikarana Shuddhi, nothing can shake that person. Whether the worlds get topsy-turvy or not, this person who is integrated in thought, word and deed is unshaken. And that person in the Gita, Krishna calls him as Sthita Prajna, who is unshaken. So unshaken doesn't mean unshaken in the body. While a physical ailment like arthritis may be disturbing you, you try to meditate. Yes, my knee gives me pain, I cannot sit. That is all right. So you solve that problem and then meditate. You don't say that I make my body totally perfect, totally without ailments, so I can. The body can never be free of ailments. That is nature. You see? So we are looking at something which is imperfect, which is temporary. Whereas what will live is a man's actions, thoughts, words and deed which will live for eternity. So I think we should focus ourselves on a different level, and I think those who are practicing yoga, the Hatha Yogis as we call ourselves, should change our attitudes, because many schools of yoga insist that Hatha Yoga is a must for evolution. It is not a must for evolution. One could do any kind of exercise to keep oneself fit. Yoga is a very, very wonderful system of exercise. You cannot compare apples and oranges. An orange has a benefit, an apple has another benefit. For our purpose, let us stick to yoga. Yoga has some wonderful benefits. So you practice yoga, you will be healthy. But can we be healthy all our life? There is no guarantee. So that being the situation, how can we take recourse to yoga saying that it is a be all and end all? It is not. While at the same time, it does keep you extremely healthy. So we should be very humble. I think that humility is the first hallmark of a yoga practitioner, of a yoga sadhaka, of people who are searching into different realms and saying what lies beyond what I can physically see with my eyes. Humility is the first thing, and you say I do not know, and then the door opens and then you can perceive different things. Then it moves into a different field. It is no longer medicine or yoga, it's metaphysical, and it goes on. But what I am saying is that yoga can be used to de-stress the mind to a point only. In other words, if you are under stress due to some personal problem, let's say, you have something really pressing and you have a family disengagement. Unless the problem is solved, that particular person, individual, is never going to be free of the stress, because it's going to eat into you all the time. Let's say you have a marital problem, for example, infidelity or something like that. Unless that problem is solved, the wife or the husband is never going to be free of stress and strain. What's the point running into a yoga class and saying, let me do yoga for half an hour, I'll feel good, the stress will go, right? You're inside the yoga class, the moment you come out of the yoga class, you're going to face the same problem again. So you cannot run away from problems, you're going to face them, try to solve them, with God's grace, get over them. So these are the attitudes that are necessary, and I think this should be ground into schools. Children must be taught how to handle their problems. You see, nowadays it's very common to see the teenagers, an increased incidence of suicides in teenagers. Why? Because of stress. Physical stress? No. Peer pressure. Mental stress. I didn't get a good grade, I go jump off into the well. So somewhere we are miserably failing. Now if you take these students and put them into Hatha Yoga, do you think the rate of suicide is going to become less? No way. The peer pressure is going to continue. So a change in attitude is what is necessary. For that you don't need Hatha Yoga as such. Keep the body healthy with Hatha Yoga. Change your attitudes using the yamas and niyamas given in the eightfold path of yoga, and then you have a holistic solution. The yamas and niyamas are how to live, how to conduct oneself in life. These are the important things which today parents are not at all emphasizing. I'm sorry to say this, it may be dogmatic, but I see it happening around me all the time. Children are not given right guidance on how to face their day-to-day challenges, and today the challenges are plenty. It's manifold. So I think by yoga we should mean that the child or the individual, whomever we are tackling, should have a correct attitude to living in its entire sense, not just the body.
Give us a few tips on how to get the best of healing and fitness from yoga practice.
Fitness can come out of yoga practice very easily and very quickly. You have a half an hour yoga session, you can feel pretty good about it. There are so many schools of yoga, but there is only one school of yoga which is medically correct, in the sense that the human body cannot be bent into the poses in any particular fanciful notion one might think of, any particular technique one might think of. So I have done a lot of ultrasound research work while the asanas are being performed to see how the body is stretched and bent, maybe with regard to the kidneys or maybe with regard to the arteries or the muscles and so on. So only one particular technique can work. You cannot do any school of yoga. So one has to learn that correct method of yoga. Once you do that, you feel very relaxed, the energy levels certainly go up, and a 15-minute session of pranayama can refresh you for the whole day. At the same time, at the end of a day, while other exercises cannot be done because you're tired mentally, physically, you just want to lie down, some yoga asanas can be done to recover from fatigue. And that is where the use of props, as we call them, help you to do some simple asanas in the evening and towards the end of a day. Also, one must realize that yoga cannot relieve the physical fatigue all the time. There is a time one has to face that when you just go back and flop onto your bed and just sleep it off. So do not substitute yoga for sleep. Well, yoga can improve the quality of sleep. Yoga cannot substitute sleep. So every natural built-in recovery system in the human body has its value. Yoga surplants at certain times, kind of complements at certain times, and sometimes no value. So we'll have to know when to use yoga, how to use yoga, and where to use yoga. Right? So sleep has a value. You're on night duty, the next day morning you come back from the hospital, you feel very tired. Sometimes you can't even get into the pose, even with a prop. So that's the time you just go and say, hey, let me just sleep. When you get up, do yoga. So you have to know how to intelligently integrate your lifestyle into yoga, yoga into your lifestyle. So once you know the trick of this, then yoga is a valuable tool in your daily life.
We've learned now that yoga practice can be very rewarding if used in the right perspective. Tilaka Ravi, reporting for MedIndia Health Network.